Alright, TV show time. Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Welcome to 10 TV shows you need to watch before you die. Did one for movies, did one for anime. Time for the television shows. And yes, lastly will probably be video games. Gotta do that too, gotta do all four. But television shows. This is interesting because, again, when I'm doing these lists, I'm trying to appeal to everybody, which is impossible because everybody has different taste, different genres they like and stuff. So it's super hard to just give, these are 10 television shows you need to watch before you die. Just 10 shows you need to watch. Different genres, different kind of stories and stuff. So I don't know. Usually lists like this don't always work for people because there's going to be a show that you're going to name. People are like, I hate that show and stuff. So everyone's different. I'm just trying to appeal to everybody. I think these are just shows that are easy to get into, and most people, not everyone, but I'd say most people can enjoy themselves while watching it. Alright, so let's not waste any time. So the very first show I'm going to talk about, I wanted to go with a very brutal action or drama show, something very dark and heavy with a good story. I went Band of Brothers. I think everyone needs to watch Band of Brothers. If you've seen Saving Private Ryan, man, you need to watch this. This is like Saving Private Ryan, the television show. More brutal, and I think it has more complex and compelling characters than Saving Private Ryan. And it's produced by Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. It brought to light to a lot of these actors who actually weren't acting very much, and it just shows the brutality of the Second World War and stuff, but it also tells these great stories of each of these soldiers. It's a story about the platoons and the soldiers, but it's also got great set pieces, great brutality, great action scenes, and it's filmed like it is a movie, just a very long movie. Band of Brothers will just change you, man. When you watch it, you will just be floored that this was a mini series that came out 20 years ago. Watching it now, I'm still blown away. I just watched Masters of the Air, which was a pretty decent show, but it still doesn't even come near the quality and the filmmaking of what Band of Brothers did. So you guys need to watch Band of Brothers if you've never seen it. Next, I'm gonna go with a comedy show. Again, comedy's so hard. Comedy's so subjective. Everyone will have their comedy show that they love and they will defend as the best comedy show. Everyone will say The Office or Parks and Recreation, shit, even How I Met Your Mother and Big Bang Theory, King of Queens, Everybody Loves Raymond, Frasier. For the old school people, I Love Lucy, Cheers, and stuff like that. Everyone has got their poison. Community. But for me, it's Friends. It will always be Friends. I think Friends is just embedded in our culture, the dialogue, the characters, and most people I know have watched Friends. So if you haven't watched it, you kind of gotta join the bandwagon, I guess. And again, I've met people who aren't a fan of Friends. They're not a fan of the comedy. They just can't get into it, which is fine. To me, it's one of my all-time feel-good shows. And it's a feel-good show for everyone. And as you saw, in the HBO special a couple of years ago, Friends was this worldwide thing that hit everybody around the globe. Friends just meant so dear to just so many people. And it's just one of the most quotable shows, and it's such an easy show to get into. Again, this is just for people who've never seen it. It's so funny. It's got such great, likable characters, good, likable stories, and it's just enjoyable. It just makes you feel good. It just, anytime you're having a bad day, you put on Friends, man, that bad day is a lot better. So, could you be any more obvious? So, Friends, definitely Friends. So, next I'm going to go with science fiction, which is hard, because there's a ton of science fiction out there, and science fiction is such a unique genre and stuff, and I could have went with so many Star Trek shows, Star Trek Next Generation, Star Trek Voyager, Deep Space Nine and stuff. I could have went with some Star Wars shows, The Mandalorian and stuff. Go with Battlestar Galactica, but I'm going with a pretty current one, and I just think a lot of people can get into it, even people who aren't Trekkies. I'm going with the Orville. You gotta hear me out on this one. The Orville is Star Trek, but it's more of a comedic Star Trek, kind of like Galaxy Quest. Uh, it's Seth MacFarlane creating his own comedy show, but it's like a Star Trek show. In the third season is very much more heavy, less comedy, and more on the heavy sci-fi and deep, rich storytelling, philosophical ideas. Third season's the best part, the best thing about the Orville. But I feel like anyone who wants to get into science fiction and they're just a little iffy on it, they want to get into Star Trek, but like, maybe they just Star Trek's not their thing. I think the Orville is a great first show to watch if you really want to get into like sci-fi and Star Trek, because it's so easy to watch. It has great ideas, but it's also very funny, very enjoyable, very colorful. And it's just easy to watch. And I know that may not be like a glowing recommendation, but I love the Orville. I think Orville has some clever writing. It has great characters, and I think it's visually done very well. And I think it's the best modern Star Trek show out there. So let's hope for season 4. Next is, I'm going like high school kind of stuff. There's like fantasy I want to go with, or like, I could have went with like Game of Thrones, but the thing is with Game of Thrones, I think Game of Thrones, the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones is perfection. It's just, as it keeps going, it just gets worse and worse, and I don't know if I want to put people through that. So I'm going with something a lot more campier and a lot more old school, and that's Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I think Buffy the Vampire Slayer, unlike Game of Thrones, is consistently great and gets actually better as it keeps going. I think Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a show everyone needs to watch. It's just a blast. It's got such great characters. It's got great action sequences. And it's got the 90s cheese, but also has some really fun characters and smart writing. And just, I don't know. I think everyone could have a great time with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So I'm going with Buffy. All right, next is like horror or thriller or psychological or something like that. I had a couple big ones for this one. I want to go like Supernatural, Haunting of Hell House, or something like that. But I went with the original Twilight Zone. I think everybody needs to watch the original Twilight Zone because it is one of the most unique and creative shows I have ever seen in my life. It is an anthology television show telling a bunch of different stories and different ideas. And some of them aren't scary, but some of them are truly horrifying and stuff. And it's such amazing writing and such unique ideas for its time. It was a show that was so ahead of itself, way ahead of itself. And just the crazy, like so many ideas, science fiction stories, movies, and they all stem from the Twilight Zone. And yeah, I remember when I was in high school, I had a philosophy, no, not philosophy, my science fiction class. We watched every episode of the Twilight Zone show, and it blew me away. And I know it's an older show, and some people might not be able to get into some older television shows, but trust me, it's fantastic. Check it out. Next, I'm going with like more of a crime kind of thing. I just went with Sons of Anarchy. I wanted to go Sopranos. I really did, because I think Sopranos is a better show than Sons of Anarchy. But Sopranos is a lot slower. Sopranos is a lot more like about the Italian culture, and some people just don't like mafia stories and stuff. And Sons of Anarchy is about bikers, and it's a lot more fast paced, and it's got like a lot more just darkness to it, and there's some upbeat moments too. But I think just Sons of Anarchy is an easier show for a wider audience to get into more than Sopranos. Even though I think Sopranos is a better show with better writing, better characters. But Sons of Anarchy is a great show about a biker gang in this like small town, and they almost like protect this town, but they're also doing heavy crime in this town, like arms dealing and drugs and stuff. And it's about this main guy, Jax Taylor, is the vice president of the biker gang, and he's trying to investigate what happened to his father years ago, that he died, and he wants to know how he died and who was involved in it. And the more and more as you get through the show, you find out the craziness and manipulation that has been going on with the club and with these characters. Great show with great performances and a solid ending. It's got one of the best endings to a show. It's such a good ending. All right, I'm going animation now. Not anime, animation. There's only one show I can think of. That's Avatar: The Lost Airbender. What other show can I actually talk about? Maybe Gravity Falls or Batman the Animated Series, but Avatar: The Last Airbender is the greatest cartoon series ever created. Characters, animation, action, comedy, just writing, just direction, art style, music, everything is top tier. Everyone who's ever watched this show will always tell you that it's one of the greatest cartoon series. So if you're one of the few people on this planet who has not watched this show, don't watch the live action Netflix show. Watch the cartoon. It's way better. Next, I went with a medical show because a lot of people like medical shows. I don't like medical shows. I really don't. I'm not a fan. I think medical stuff is kind of gross and a little icky. And a lot of the medical shows, for some stupid reason, are like soap operas, like Grey's Anatomy and shit, or Saving Hope. And I'm just not a fan of these kind of stuff. The one medical show I've watched, and I think it is brilliant, is House. House is such a great show. And I would recommend that to anyone. Even people who are like me, I don't like medical shows. They're not my thing. I'm not a fan of like a hospital environment for a show. I don't like the atmosphere of medical shows. I'm just not a medical person, and I just don't like that kind of stuff. But House got me hooked. I love the character of Gregory House. I love that he has just got no bedside manner, and he is just awesome. He is basically if Sherlock Holmes was a doctor. That's basically the idea of House, is that what if Sherlock Holmes was in the modern world and he was a doctor? That's basically what Dr. Gregory House is. And Hugh Laurie is excellent in this show. And the crazy shit that happens is awesome. The medical patients and some of these stories, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So I'm talking to people like me who don't like medical shows. Trust me, House is the one exception. Check it out. And next is more like going historical shows. I'm going with Shogun. I have to go with Shogun. It's brand new. It just ended. It is a brilliant masterpiece of a television show. It is one of the best miniseries I've ever watched. The cinematography is amazing. The story of Lord Tanaga and these different clans and this Englishman coming and joining them, learning their ways and stuff. Oh, what a fantastic show. Heavy, emotional, amazing action, compelling drama, brilliant characters, and just you have no idea what's going to happen next. And apparently there's not going to be a season 2, which is a little sad, but it does end so brilliantly. So I can kind of get it. But it's on Disney Plus now. Please go watch it if you have not already. It's a genius, brilliant show. So watch it. All right, and the last show I'm going with is a show that's nostalgic for me. It's a coming of age show. There's a lot of shows about like coming of age and high school life and everything. The best one for me is Boy Meets World. I love and adore Boy Meets World. It's a 90s show that still to this day is very relevant and still holds up with its great messaging, its great characters, and it's also great comedy scenes. Like a lot of Disney Channel shows, I don't know, I find they all are so dated and they're just so corny and they just don't hold up. Boy Meets World does. Its characters are great, its messages are great, it's got great messages about education, it's got messages about sex and drugs and family life and classism and poor and rich and middle class. They talk about so many issues in a show that mostly kids were watching, but it's a show for the whole family to watch and enjoy. It's funny, it's deep, it's moving, it's Boy Meets World. So yeah, that was 10 television shows that I think everyone should watch before they die. So let me know in the comments below if you agree with this list and give me 10 television shows you think people should watch before they die. Comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and join the dark side.